So, my guest today is Kelly Howard, and she has an interesting title: Fitness Consistency Expert with a Touch of Adventure. So, you can guess what we're going to talk about today. We're talking about getting fit, we're going to talk about staying consistent with it, and getting outdoors. So, she really has an interesting book also that you can download called Fit, Active, and Ageless for Life. Because you see, Kelly, she's now 63 and she's been helping women prioritize fitness and get them motivated and consistent for over 25 years. So she's got some pretty good experience with this. And she's got the wisdom, she's got the experience to help us really feel great and have more fun in this second half of life. And she's been inspiring women to pretty much get outdoors, get adventurous, get out of their comfort zones and try something new, something that they've only dreamt of previously. So we're gonna. I'm wondering if there's any ice bathing, getting a little bit out of your comfort zone in that way. We'll talk about that. And she also has a podcast for older women called Fit is Freedom. And she's coaching, she's got a coaching business, she's got online courses. Um, she's got retreats also geared towards an older woman. So she's really got some very interesting things to check out. And she's the creator of the Fox TV Outdoor Houston Adventure series. And she now calls Houston, Texas home. But really, her home is outdoors in the wild, where she's found kayaking, rivers, and traveling trails all around the world. So now, without further ado, let's meet Kelly Howard. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And hello to everybody listening.
So let's start with finding out a little bit more about you. You're now post-menopause and you're enjoying life to the fullest. Have you always been into fitness? Has it come to you easily?
Oh, great question. Really, when I was younger, let's call it, in my 20s, I wasn't that active. I did some skating, didn't do much, but I picked up sailboat racing in my late 20s. And then I also, in my 30s, picked up skate racing, long distance skate racing. And those two things got me moving, but they didn't get me like, really fit. Well, the skating was very, very impressive at that age. But, when you're in your 30s, you can get in shape by doing a lot of cardio, a lot of hard cardio. But then I had to just like really get serious about the weights too,
Mm.
because that's where, it is when we hit menopause.
So you've been pretty active since your 30s and you found
Yes.
the sports that you like. And is it so it's never been a challenge like, oh, I've got to exercise because everybody's doing it and it's good for me. You just kind of naturally fell into it.
I just automatically always go toward the things that are fun. And that's what I try and get all my women to do, because even if fun is taking the dog for a different walk than you normally do, it really doesn't matter what fun is to anybody. But if we're doing something that we enjoy, it's so easy to do it. It's so easy to be consistent with it. It's so easy to get out there and just really enjoy it. And then the piece of that works is that if we're really enjoying something, and we know we need to do maybe a little more mobility so that we can, our hips are happy if we're out hiking or whatever it is, it's easier to add in those things that we need to add in.
Mm. So I've been talking to some of my friends in the US, and when you say fun, I'm thinking games. I mean, that's just me. Like I want to play a game. And and it seems like everybody's into pickleball.
I was going to say, if you want to play a game right now in the US, pickleball.
Yeah, and it's like an obsession or something. I don't
It
even
is
know
an
what it is.
obsession.
Like somebody described, I have to go to YouTube and look at a video, but it's like a lighter racket, kind of like a ping pong ball. Men, women. It's not like a chosen gender or not. What is that? And
Well,
why do
I
people
mean,
like it so much? And is it keeping them fit?
so, okay, 100% transparency. I haven't played pickleball. I haven't picked that up, but I understand the desire because a lot of people have played tennis in their life. And tennis is one of those things that if you aren't like a super athlete, as you get, it doesn't, I'm going to say older, and older could be 40s, right? As you get to a certain age, it's harder on your body because there's a lot of moving. And pickleball is a smaller court. It's kind of like racquetball, but not so fast. And with that smaller court, it allows people to interact, which is huge. Community, community is one of my favorite pieces to teach people. So it allows people to have community. It allows people to play, like kids. It allows them to get out there and be a little competitive. In fact, I have one of my clients who is recovering right now from the shoulder injury when she made that heroic dive for the pickleball.
Yeah.
So I think it just brings all the things together.
That
And
makes perfect sense. And as
yeah,
we age, we don't want to be so aggressive with our joints. And I think it's just less intense. And I mean, there's less pressure, I guess, or force going against that racket. So a lot of people who play tennis have tennis elbow, and it seems, I mean, as that it's like could be that as well. So that's a good
yeah,
shift. That's trying something
yeah.
new. It's getting outdoors, right? It's an outdoor thing, right?
Right? It can be outdoor or indoor. Like
Uh-huh.
during the winter, a lot of people are, setting up short places inside and playing there.
Oh,
So they're turning into a year-round activity.
great.
Yeah.
So so pre-menopause, you were training, you were doing something at least. And I
Mhm.
want to know what that
Yes.
is. And how has it changed post-menopause?
Hmm. So premenopause, I was uh, okay. I mean to be like I was super athlete at that point. I was doing triathlons at 48. I was racing 86 miles on my skates. I was, doing 200-mile bike rides. And it was a lot of cardio, right? You can tell like all the things I was doing, it was a cardio push. Um, I still lifted weights, but it wasn't a very big focus for me. I was actually all about the winning at that moment. Um, and unfortunately, all about the winning got me into a place where by 50, I was in a lot of pain. Joints were hurting, back was hurting. I wasn't doing the super long stuff anymore. I dropped skating, which was like my lifelong passion. I'd quit because it was just causing sciatic like nobody's business. And at that age, I went through menopause, and I went through menopause pretty quick. But
How
at
old were
that age,
you? And
I was
how
probably
long?
about 40. I mean 50. I'm sorry, about 50.
And then it
And
lasted for, you said quickly, like how long did that transition?
maybe 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Like it, I was somebody who had probably unusual periods my entire life. They were very, very short, like a flash in the pan or
Yeah.
flash in the pants, literally, and then on to life. Like it never really slowed me down. And so I guess menopause was kind of the same thing, except that what I started noticing was all the trouble I was having with joints and pain and just not happy. My
You
body just
sound
wasn't
like
happy.
me. Like, I
Yeah.
was pretty active. I mean, pretty, very about winning in my 40s now and 50s. Now I'm 53. And so, yeah, I'm dealing with a hip pain. So, and I'm trying hormone therapy because a lot of women say hormone therapy helps a lot with their joint pain. So that's another thing. Did you try, did you hear about that? Did you try that one?
Okay. At that time, it was that moment in time when they said, if you do hormone therapy, you're going to die of, I don't remember if it was heart attack or breast cancer, one of them, right? Like
Yeah.
there was this brief moment in time when that was what all the doctors were telling women. And my sister was doing hormone therapy. And I was like, Patty, don't do that. Like, we're going to die. And I bought the story. If I could go back in time, and I very seldom say that, but this is one thing that I would change if I could go back in time because I think hormone therapy, I've seen my friends that went through it, big difference. Big difference in skin,
Mhm.
right? And now I've spent my entire life outside. So of course I have some special wrinkles. Um, but I think the skin would have been better. And I think the joints would have been more flexible. So
Mhm.
now at this stage, I'm I'm doing um, I'm doing repair work, right? But the good news is I'm not in the pain that I used to be in. I'm still as active and in a lot of ways even more active than I used to be. Like I do things now that at 48 I thought would have been cool if I was younger to try. So
Wow. Well,
that doesn't
how
oh
does
yeah,
the
go ahead.
pain go away? How did you get the pain to dissipate?
Uh, okay. I will try anything.
Mhm.
Okay. I am willing to experiment on myself, right? You too. You try these things. So things that I tried, supplements. I've become a big fan of collagen supplements. And I guess I should tell everybody there was one more layer to me. I had been a vegetarian since I was about 19 or 20 and never touched a protein anything until I was in my 50s.
Wow.
Because, yeah, right? Like I didn't touch eggs, I didn't take protein powder, I didn't do squat. So what you're dealing with right now is like I'm what 10 years older than you. So in that 10 years, can you imagine the change in knowledge that we've had?
Yes.
Like shocking, shocking. The first long distance race I did, I didn't know how to train for it or how to eat for it. Like the only thing I was doing was, at stops I'd take some potassium powder. I didn't know anything else because there wasn't the knowledge out there, the knowledge base that we have now.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's, I mean,
amazing.
which,
It's amazing you
yeah,
could
go
be
ahead.
so athletic and be competitive as well and not crash and burn without protein. I mean,
Right.
it's you didn't,
I
right? I mean, maybe you did. I don't know. What
no, no, I never really crashed and burned. I mean, I think part of it, and I don't know this, I think part of it is being a vegetarian. The the flip side, the good side of it, I think it allows you to have a lot of energy. Because I have always been like Tigger the Tiger, and the kind of to drive people crazy kind of energy. And if I want to make it even worse, the only thing I ate for 40 years was pasta because pasta and vegetables.
wow. And
I
do
didn't know any better.
when you started eating proteins or meat or any kind of protein for that matter, because did you notice any changes in your hair, your nails, or
The only difference I've noticed here are the two differences I've noticed. If I don't do protein, it takes me longer to gain muscle. Now, along with protein, I'm also doing creatine after I would lift. Okay. So without those two things, I definitely notice muscle loss and muscle doesn't come on as quick.
Mhm.
Like that's
But
probably the big ones.
when you did
So
that, but when you just first of all, like why did you decide to start eating protein or I don't, you're eating animal protein or just vegetable
I'm
protein?
not, I'm not, I just, yeah, I will eat some whey. I'll do some whey protein.
Yeah.
Um,
But you
but
were so you still are a vegetarian. You just
yeah,
now
yeah,
incorporate more protein in your diet.
I do. And like I told a friend today, every year I eat one bite of fish to see if I'm ready for the fish. And I'm not, but someday I might be, right? Because I think fish is probably really good for us.
Mhm.
But it's, having been this way for so long, I'm just kind of this way. So so to answer your question, starting the protein was just simply because there's some became a knowledge base out there,
Mhm.
right? Like suddenly there was knowledge. Suddenly there was more about women than, and there's still a lot of non-knowledge if you think about it. Like my sister, I keep explaining to her that maybe she should incorporate some collagen and protein in her diet because she's having a lot of pain, a lot of issues. And she's like sending me, I don't know who it is, the American dairy, her, I don't know, somebody's notes going, you only need 30 grams of protein a day, that kind of
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
And right, so
I
there's a
know.
lot of conflicting information.
Yeah.
But when you start really studying like you do, you realize that eh, we need it.
Yeah.
Like we just need it. And when you start getting the pain, you realize that there's something going on. And I never wanted to live the rest of my life incapable of doing the things I love. So,
So how did you get rid of the pain? It just went away? Or did you do
mm,
something?
oh yeah, we were talking about that. We went somewhere else. So how did I get rid of it? I tried everything. I've tried acupuncture, helped a teeny bit. I've tried NeuroMD, which is like a TINS unit on steroids. I
Mhm.
use that whenever I get into pain these days, seems to help. I use red light therapy, um, you know, have the big panel and the handheld light. I doubled down on the protein. I doubled down on the collagen, the right kind of collagen supplements. I've done a lot more mobility. It's a big piece of what I'm always like blabbing to my crowd about, and they want to put their fingers in their ears, but I'm like, guys, we got to warm these joints up. You can't go out cold because I mean, and I'm sure you've tried this too. You do one thing that you love to do. You go out cold, do it, see how you feel. You go out warmed up, see how you feel. Big difference. Um, so it's all of those things, and I think that changing my weight routine, being a competitive kind of gal, my routine used to be how much can I lift, right? Like let's see how much I can lift. And I've dialed it back a little bit. I probably lift half of what I used to lift. And and part of me is like appalled to even say that, but another part of me notices that I don't have as much pain as I used to. I use a lot of trigger balls and rolling, and I use it all, Zora. I mean, I just figured that if I want to live well for a long time, I'm going to try it all.
And
Sleep,
the in sleep, that's for sure. All good muscle too.
right?
Have you tried any blood flow restriction bands like Katsu?
Oh yeah, yep, do that.
It's great for building muscle,
Yeah,
especially if you're going to do the baby weights, right? Or lift half as much. Your body will respond as if it's lifting a lot more than that you're actually lifting, which is why I love them. And especially if you're injured or if you just not going
right.
to lift the weights because you know it's going to give you pain, you can still get the gains as if you were.
Exactly.
So, make sure
Yeah.
you do that. Okay, so let's talk about this menopause transition and the fitness. And I hear sometimes people tell me, Zora, you just got to slow down, because I have joint pain, right? Or hip pain. It's not joint pain, I have to say, it's really localized. Um, and then I have other people, where if you're part of like this Dr. Stacy Sims group, Feisty Menopause, they're like, no, it's time to speed up. This is our moment. This is our time. And I propose to that as well, because I think we need to speed up sometimes because it's just so much harder as we get older, right? It's we have to work double time. And when we were young, it just kind of came, right? Get real fit and got
Yeah,
your body composition without doing
exactly.
much. So I'm
Exactly.
not really sure. I mean, there's two things, right? What do you think is the right way to
I
approach this?
coming back to, my usual approach to things, I like to use it all. Okay. I think there are some things that we need to slow down on. For instance, like the heavy weights. I noticed that using heavy weights gave me muscles I wanted and joints I didn't want. So by using me as a test rat of one, I went, okay, how can we do that differently? And like, to what you said, there's different things you can do. Um, so that's part of it. The other part of it is though, I think there's this cultural belief that menopause is, well, really, sweetie, it's kind of the end of everything. So, maybe it's time to just go slow down and go sit in the corner and, take care of the grandkids. Nothing wrong with taking care of the grandkids, but take care of them in the way you want to do. Like, get out there and do the things that you love to do, because the more things you love to do and the more fun you have and the more you don't have to speed up. Like, I don't have to run faster and further, but I do have to have a life that I'm really enjoying. And it just naturally follows that we find the things that are going to work for us. We we do work out more. We do prioritize ourselves, which is a huge piece. Like, a lot of people feel like, let me rephrase that, a lot of women that I work with feel like everything else needs to come first and then they'll take care of themselves. The work, the kids, the grandkids, the family, the partner, all this stuff. And you know what? People may say it's selfish, but I subscribe to the fact that if we don't take care of ourselves first, we're not going to be able to take care of any of them anyway. So we're not going to be here for them. So, yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. It's like in the airplane, put on your oxygen mask first and then deal with the kid. I guess you
Right.
won't be able to help if you're passed
Good
out.
luck, kids. Now you can tell I didn't reproduce.
So what's happening to our bodies in this menopause transition when it comes to fitness, and how does the loss of our hormones play a role? What are your thoughts on that?
Muscle. That is probably the number one thing, is that muscle goes away if you don't do anything about it. And sometimes people just look at me and they're like, well, I don't like to go to the gym anyway. I'm like, it's not about the gym. It's about living life well. It's about having the strength to do everything you want to do. And if you don't even want to be strong, you have to have the strength to have the balance you need. You have, and I don't use the word have to, but I'm using it a lot because I'm really passionate about this. We have to make sure that we're fighting against the ravages of age. And I apologize, I haven't heard you say this, but you probably said this before. Our bodies were made to go to about 30. Like that's really about, how our body, about where our bodies were made to go to at one point. And now we're living like twice that long and three times that long. We have to do things that are going to make it work. So yes, I think muscle is the first one. Um, I'm a big believer in supplements. I think you need to look at what's not working in your body and figure out where you're missing. You have to clean up your food. I mean, I sugar is probably the biggest thing I see in my crowd is, and it's kind of at that point where it's like, well, what's a little treat here? What's a little treat there? And I agree, unless the little treat is a quart of ice cream every night, and all the other things that happen because we get so much inflammation that, and sugar is, one of those. Um, and it also, there's a lot going on inside our bodies that we're not aware of. So people come to me and they're like shocked. They're like, I'm pre-diabetic.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, you just told me what you've been eating and not eating for an entire lifetime. So I think food is a huge piece,
Mhm.
and not treating it as the comfort that we need.
Mhm.
Right? It's so
Yeah.
easy to get comfort from food instead of comfort from movement.
Yeah. And hormones, when we lose our estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, any thoughts on that? Because we understand that it's quite an impact.
Yeah. So my thoughts on that. First, I've already admitted I didn't do the replacement therapy because I had no idea. So I've been playing catch up for 13 years. One thing that I noticed, which is I think kind of interesting, is I've always been that person, that female who could just like throw on the weights, like throw on the muscle. Took me no time at all. But as you go through this, you start losing your testosterone, right? So I've noticed the testosterone loss. And I'm still not doing any sort of hormone therapy simply because I guess I've never really sat down with a doctor who told me, yeah, this would work,
Mhm.
right? Most of them are like, yep, you're too late, too late. And what I read is, I'm a little too late. So I go to the whole idea of do what you can first and then find out things that are going to work for you now. Even the estrogen, right? Like we just lose stuff.
Mhm.
And our job is to figure out how to replace it.
Mhm.
Again, usually my go tos are food and supplements and movement.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely talk to your doctor because it's kind of old school to say, oh, 10 years post-menopause. No, no way. There are plenty of exceptions. So if you're a woman listening now who's past that and think that window of opportunity, quote unquote, is related to you, not necessarily. So that's where you need to find a menopause trained doctor, right? Doctors
Thank you.
in generally, I've heard doctors tell me anywhere between 1 hour and 8 hours of training and menopause is what they get in medical school. And wow, when you think about the years, not decade, that people
Right.
study medicine, how is it that they only got this teeny tiny bit of information? So please, yes, go talk to a menopause doctor and see where you're at. And of course, it's not just where your hormones are. Where's your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone? I can guarantee you they've gone pretty much. I
Right.
mean, your body's
Right.
still trying to produce it. Of course, you have some very, very low levels, and it's going to get worse with each passing decade, each passing year. But it's about figuring out based on your genetics, your family history, your cardiovascular disease risk, your and any other risks that you have. Are you a smoker? Are you overweight? All of these things take into play uh, in determining if you can still take hormone therapy past that 10-year window. And yeah, so definitely I'd love encourage
Interesting.
women
Okay.
to learn about it. Yeah, and I think you're pretty fit and you're pretty healthy. I don't see why not, but obviously there's a lot to go into it. So if your doctor's not asking you for a ton of details, and that's including how many kids you had when you last gave birth and like these weirdo questions, those all they have to take into account. So yeah, go and talk to your doctor.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, you can still benefit and protect those bones, that heart, and that brain. while you're still young, right? So let's talk about your clients that you've been working with. Are any of them on hormone therapy? And if they are, do you notice any differences in their fitness or health outcomes or body compositions with those who are on it and who aren't, other than the skin?
Mm,
My skin.
um, yes. So, yes, some of them. So, the women that I work with are generally about 48 to about 78. So, somewhere in that range. Um, the ones who are a little bit younger who are using the hormone therapy, yes, I can see a difference. I can see a difference in their skin. I can see a difference in not in their weight necessarily. Um, and I think that's simply life choices, right? Um, but I do see a little difference, and I also see a bit of difference in their belief that yes, they can actually change their body. Because that's always a question I get,
Mhm,
right? Like at this age, can I really make a difference?
mhm.
Or am I just like wasting
So,
my time?
so you're saying that those women in their late 40s, early 50s, the ones who are on hormone therapy, they have more confidence that they can build the body than those who are not on the hormone therapy. They seem a little
I
bit
think
less
so.
confident.
I think so.
And do you
Yeah.
notice anything like there are, say, two women, they're both working, doing the same training, and one is getting some results and some not? Is that, or are they just
No,
the
I
same?
can't tell you that I see side by side um, changes simply because when I work with women, I'm not the person on my team who's actually doing the personal training. I'm the person who says, you know what, this is the suggestion I have for the kind of plan you should have. Now I'm going to give you over here, and you're going to get a personal training plan based on your injuries and your lifestyle and the time that you're going to put together and everything else. And so my personal trainer does that. So
Mhm.
I can't say that I see identical side by side simply because I'm not in the really deep, what are they doing? I'm more in the upper high going, how's that working for you? Okay, we need to change something.
Are there any women in their 60s you're training who are on hormone therapy?
I don't think so. I really don't think so.
Because by
I
60,
mean,
you
I'll
can
ask
see
that
some
question,
health
but
outcomes where some have osteoporosis, some don't, some have some brain fog, and some don't. I don't know, whatever. It would be interesting to see how they're. By the time you're 60, you'll have some bigger changes, but that's to come. You'll have a
that's a
whole other
question I'll ask.
generation.
Yeah.
So, what your older clients, then let's while we're on that, let's say the ones who are in their 60s and 70s, are they dealing with osteoporosis or sarcopenia?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Mhm. What are they
absolutely.
doing? Have you been able to give them some plan and see some results?
The plan goes from anywhere from I have one client who was a smoker, and I was just like, you got to stop that. Done. Like, I don't care what it takes. That's over with. To From there, okay, then the next piece is I always get them moving first, moving in a way that's comfortable for them. For some people it's just simply starting to walk,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's just simply starting to walk, and if they're walking, then after they get comfortable in a month, I suggest maybe a weight vest with 1 pound in it or 2 pounds in it, like simple stuff. um, it depends on where somebody's starting, right? Because everybody's starting from a different place. So if somebody's starting from zero or smoker, then you deal with that. Um, you deal with the movement. You get the. I'm always after them to get their mobility going because when your joints aren't happy, then it's just so hard to move. So hard to move. And after that, everybody has to do some sort of weight bearing. And that weight bearing might start with just body weights or resistance bands or, dumbbells. But I think that if we're not doing that, then we're basically just giving up. We may not say we're giving up, but we are.
So if you had a client, then say she's got not an optimal T score on her osteoporosis results. So she's now osteopenia or osteoporosis, let's say. So were you able to work with her and get her out of that danger zone?
Yes. Okay. So, so when somebody has that going on, the first thing we start with is, what are you taking into your body, right? Are you taking in the supplements you should be taking, and the right ones, not the, you know, not the other ones? And are you being consistent with it? Then from there, we move into, there are options. Like if it's somebody in a big city, like they can even look at a company like Osteostrong. They have pretty good results on turning it around for the right people. Like some people, it doesn't work for, some people it does. So we figure out like what's that thing that's going to be, and then we always get a baseline. Yeah, there's always that baseline DEXA because you don't know otherwise, and then you find the things that are debilitating you. So the debilitating, the smoking, over drinking, I have ideas on other things that debilitate us. I'm pretty sure that that eating junk food isn't doing anything for our bones. I've never quite seen that on NIH, but there's no doubt about it in my mind. So it's a long-term plan, and it usually takes 2 years before somebody really sees that change on the DEXA, right?
So
But they do see the change.
what are the right supplements?
I always suggest marine-based calcium. So marine-based calcium, and then of course, the omegas, and a couple of the others, the A and the K and the D, and a couple of vegetarians. I have the Bs, but from what I have read, studied, and seen, the marine-based calcium is a game changer. I also suggest people to look at strontium. Strontium has, it's one of those things you can find everything bad about it, you can find everything good about it. I want people to make their own decisions about it. So I'd send them all the information, give them a highlight, and say, you decide. But there seems to be a lot of science that's showing up that it's going to work. But once again, it's one of those things, especially here in the States, that it's not an accepted form of supplementation.
Mhm.
So you have to really like look at all these things. But I like giving people their information, breaking it down simply, and then just saying, what's next for you? How are we going to make some changes?
So let's move on to consistency because you're an expert in consistency. So no matter what stage we're in life, it seems that's really, really hard. But then it gets harder as we get through this menopause transition because we're not seeing sometimes the results when we put all the work into it. So you say in your book, you mentioned that there are 5 consistency killers. What are those?
Well, I mean, the first one I think is the biggest one is perfection. People will, I'll help them put together a plan, or I'll suggest that they put together a plan. And then what happens is they start. In fact, when we're recording this, it's the 22nd of January. All those people who started off with a New Year's fitness resolution just hit the 3-week mark. And it's a killer. There's a lot of reasons behind that, but there's a lot of statistics that show that at about week 3, we're just like, oh man, I'm busy, right? I don't have time for all this. But if you start falling into the need to stay perfect with that plan that you created, then most likely you're going to stop. And it's going to be one more thing that you started and then quit. So my idea of perfection is if you can hit 80% of what you say you're going to do, kudos. If you're hitting 90%, you're probably a rock star. If you're hitting 100%, you're probably not trying hard enough. So perfection is one of the big ones. Another one is taking that a little bit further, which is what I call the tipping point, which is when you do so many things, you add so many things to your plan or your what you're going to do, etc., that all of a sudden you just tipped it over and it's just too much. Like you're just like, I can't do all this stuff, and you stop instead of regroup. So that's a big one too. And then a couple of the others, like one of them is just not anticipating the roadblocks that are going to come up in life. It's because life is just life, and things are going to happen, and we're going to be traveling, and we're going to be doing, different things. Like right this minute, I am literally snowed in at a friend's house. I got here to visit her just before we got snowed in. We've been snowed in for 5 days. And so in those 5 days, it's been, well, if nothing else, we're going to get outside, we're going to do hikes in the woods, and we're going to do balance because you can do those in here. But roadblocks are the things that slow us down because we pretend like life isn't going to happen. And it's probably the biggest one I hear that like everybody thinks is an acceptable one. Oh, well, the grandkids are here. I'm like, well, that's good. So what are you going to do with them? Right? Like, take them out and do something with them. Um, yeah, stick them in the corner with a book and do pick up your weights. I don't care.
So that's perfection. There's not anticipating those roadblocks. The third one is going beyond that tipping point.
Beyond that tipping point. I mean, and some of the other ones that just stop us is just it's just fear, really. Like, I mean, I'm just gonna put a couple of them together. It's just fear. Because it's like, is this really gonna help me? Am I wasting my time? Am I starting something and going to find that a month from now, once again, I've let myself down? Like, this is the mind game piece of it. We have big mind games when it comes around fitness. And if you can get past what happens in your brain when it comes to, whoops, this didn't work before, it's probably not going to work now, or you refuse to start small. Like, that's a big one. I used to be the person who was like, start strong, go big, blah, blah, blah. And I went, you know what? All that's doing is making us hurt. Stop that. Let's
Mhm.
start small and build up. And if you're not willing to do that, then what happens is you start big, like I used to say, and then you get injured, and then you're sitting on the sidelines again. And now 8 weeks have gone by, and you're despondent. So it's putting all the pieces together, and not. I mean, another one that is really a consistency killer, and I don't think it's one of the five in my book, is not having a plan. Like, if you don't have a plan, and that plan doesn't have to be a big deal, but you do have to have a plan. For everybody listening who, we're busy women, we're mm, doing all the things. And if you don't have something on your to-do list or on your calendar or on that plan, it's just a fairy tale. It's not real. It only becomes real when we actually schedule it.
Mhm. This is one motivation way to stay motivated to be consistent is to have a plan.
Right.
What else? What other tips do you have to stay motivated to stay consistent?
Okay, so we're going to use some of the ones I just talked about, but flip them a little bit. So you do need a plan. Start small with your plan. Um, get an accountability buddy. Like, I want everyone to be accountable to themselves, but we have to start somewhere. And if it's one word I hear more than anything from everybody is like, well, I'm not accountable. And I'm like, well, actually you are. But let's start small and build up to where you are 100% accountable to yourself. But you've got to have that layered accountability. So have a buddy. Don't have your best friend be your buddy. Your best friend's job is to like make you feel good. So if you're texting her and going, oh, it was a really bad day and I don't want to do that workout because, I got fired, your best friend's going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let's go get a glass of wine. You shouldn't be working out. We should be just chatting. Right? Like, that's your job. Your life partner, a lot of life partners, their job is to figure out how to keep you from making them move. So they're like, they know what's going to get you to sit down on the sofa and watch Netflix and eat pizza. And then a lot of people think that an app, just like some sort of online app, is going to make it work for them. It is so easy to turn an app off. Like, an app's a good tracker, but it's not accountability. So, accountability buddies are a good one. Um, Another one is that you just have to realize that motivation is not something that you're born with. A lot of people believe that they're not consistent because they're not motivated. And it's backwards. Motivation is something that you learn. You practice it again, and you keep practicing it until all of a sudden you don't need that quote unquote motivation because you're just already following through on your consistency path. And then coming back to the very beginning is just allowing yourself a little grace when you're not perfect. Like, don't beat yourself up, you just restart. And you get in the habit of always restarting when you need to, because it's so easy to have the mindset that, oh gosh, I I haven't been working out for 2 weeks again, so that must mean that this is never going to work for me. And you just have to restart, restart, restart until all of a sudden one day you realize that your movement and your better eating habits are just who you are now instead of what you're trying to do.
So you mentioned the accountability buddy, that often works, and I guess that shouldn't be your spouse and it shouldn't be your best friend. But what is, you mentioned layered accountability in your book. What is that?
So layered accountability is, the way I look at it is, you're at the very top of that pyramid, right? So you start bottom. What's the easiest accountability you can use? Yeah, maybe it is an app, right? Maybe that is. And then the next piece up is, maybe you give yourself a goal of some sort. Like, if I do XYZ, then I'm going to be able to, I don't know, get the bathing suit. I don't care what it is. That one's a little fuzzy, and I have to tell you, because a lot of times our goals kind of fizzle, but a lot of people want to put that reward system in there. Then the next piece would be, give yourself something to train towards. So maybe it's doing a 5K, maybe it's going on an adventure trip, maybe it's nothing more than doing a little hike that you've seen off the side of your cement path that you've been walking for years, and you've always been a little bit timid about it. Maybe it's just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and trying something like that. But give yourself something to shoot for, right? Something to look forward to, something to try something new. And then the next step up is in that accountability. Um, Buddies fall within there in a lot of ways, but having a good accountability buddy usually means having 3+ people in the group. Two people doesn't work very well, because I've had lots of people be like, "Oh, please be my accountability buddy," and then they just fade away. So you need 3 people, because you need to keep bringing it back, but having that accountability piece in there. And then at the very top, like, what does it look like? Like, when you reach that point where you are 100% accountable to yourself, what does it look like? And I'm not 100% accountable to myself. I am in certain areas, like my fitness. Like, I mean, I'm a machine. It's what I do, right? I don't even think about it. But then there's like using my red light therapy consistently. I kind of stink at it. So I have to like pull in a couple of friends and go, okay, today's the day. I've got to do this, and I'm going to text you every day this week because I've got to get back at this. And I do. And their job is to, in my accountability group, is to call me out if I haven't done it. So, it's really, in the end, it's habits. That's really what we're talking about, is
Yeah.
creating those habits that make this all come together.
So I'm gonna have to let you go soon. So we're gonna, before I do, what's tell us a little bit about this upcoming retreat that you have.
Oh, we have a few.
Uh-huh.
This year we have 6 retreats that we're doing. Um, One of them is a dog sledding retreat, but that's getting ready to happen now, which is kind of like new and different. We're going to Portugal, which is a fun one. I'm taking a group into Glacier National Park for a hiking retreat. The Smokies is that's my heart life, where I want to be all the time. And so we do have a Smoky retreat that we've got some room in it, and it's hiking. It's hiking through the mountains when the fall foliage changes. It's trying some new things, like maybe some rafting or some duckies. Uh, we have we have a lot of different things we do. We always take a yoga instructor with us, and we take a masseuse with us. So it's not just let's go out and be really like tough and do all these hard things. It's, let's do some hard things, let's do some fun things, and let's take care of ourselves.
Oh, it's so exciting, actually. And I love the whole outdoor adventure stuff. I think that's your jam. And if people want to jump along, then that's great. Just, you've got the retreat all organized. You just have to jump in. When do they have to book it, and how much does it cost?
So for the Smokies, I suggest booking about 3 months in advance at least, which would put it at about June. And the reason I say 3 months is that along with a retreat, they get a program I created called Adventure Fit, and it actually walks them from wherever they are in their fitness journey to being able to go do some of the hikes we do. And there's always levels to the hike, so nobody has to worry about being left behind. And that particular retreat, I think, is about $2,200, something like that, and it's mostly all inclusive except for airfare.
Mm. Do we get a discount in any kind? Have you got a code
Um,
for us?
I can put one together for you, and it would be what I would do now. First, truly, let me make sure that my numbers are correct, because like I'm the one that says let's go do these things, and then someone else in my team puts all the numbers together. So at 22.5, of course we can do a discount of probably, let me just make something up on the spot, 5 to 8%. So
Okay.
yes, and
All
it
right.
gets you a discount that you can put in the show notes.
Yes, give us a discount. Make it Zora, Zora, and then let's see if anybody wants to jump in.
That
So
would be fun.
everyone can grab a free copy of your book, Fit, Active, and Ageless for Life, on your website. I'll have links to that in the show notes, and the links to the retreat as well. And your website is fitisfreedom.com. And I've got your Facebook pages and groups and Instagrams, LinkedIn, YouTubes. They'll all be there. So before I let you go, do you have any last words for a woman going through the menopause transition?
Yeah, I do. Um, don't stop. Don't stop. Don't believe that this is an end. I do know it's a beginning. There's so much that can happen and be open for you after all of this goes on, because suddenly life becomes bigger and life can become bigger. And so please just don't stop and find something that you love to do. Find something that sounds like fun and go do it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Zora, and thank you to everyone listening.